Hello, this is Robert, and this is Mental Health Monday, my weekly feature that I do regarding mental health topics. And today we're going to discuss anxiety in a more in-depth way, understanding anxiety with more depth and understanding what's behind it. I want to go into a background of where my information is coming from. It is not just coming off the top of my head, just what I'm thinking. Um, this is gathered information in a variety of different ways. Um, with my experience through many counselors that I have been through in the past 20 years. There's a book portion of stuff that I had studied uh, when I was pursuing my bachelor's in psychology. That was a while ago, but I do keep up on the information based on things that I watch. Generally, the TED Talks videos on mental health are excellent and very accurate information, so that's a portion of it. And the final is my personal experience with anxiety, all my struggles, and just trial and error throughout the years of things that I have tried that have worked. Again, so that's a three-prong where I get a lot of my information, if not all of it. So, I do feel comfortable in the information I'm saying. I'm not going to give you misinformation. That being said, everybody with mental illness, I've said this in other videos, mental illness is a very individualized, personal type of experience. So if you try to do what everybody else did, or everybody else does to make you feel better, you're going to suffer. So when you're dealing with mental illness, anxiety, depression, anything, it is your personal experience, and you have to individualize, the way that you are going to deal with it, because it is a personal experience. And when you do make a more individualized commitment to getting better, you get better. That's my experience. So that being said, anxiety is a widespread disorder that a majority of a lot of people in the world deal with, are crippled by, ranging from post-traumatic stress disorder, which is a strand of anxiety, up into panic attacks, which is an extreme form of anxiety. All of them can be crippling whatsoever. So what I'm going to talk about is the basis of anxiety. Anxiety is essentially fear, and it's irrational fear. Now, irrational fear, I'm going to give an example and definition, is if I had an irrational fear of this dish towel, saying, I looked at him, oh, this dish towel is very, it's making me very uncomfortable, and I can't even look at it. I don't even want to touch it. Like, okay, so I communicate that to a person. A person, generally, if they don't know me and they just hear that for the first time, they're going to be very confused and not understand why I'm feeling that way. So an irrational fear is something that's not based in reality. Here's to deal with anxiety. There's no such thing as a rational fear. People would debate that, but all fear, and this is something that is not coming off out of my mouth out of nowhere. This can be researched and pardon me, I'm trying to think of the word. This could be, you could look this up, and this is valid. This is research, but all fear stems from the fear of death. That's a basis of every type of fear. It goes from something like that. We all have a fear, whether it's mastered or not, but every human being has a fear of dying. So, nobody wants to die. Everybody wants to live. So, here's the thing with the fear. It's called, the reason why it's an irrational fear, because if you have that fear, you're going to do something. Your behavior is going to be influenced by it, and you're going to do something to cause you to feel, quote unquote, safe. But there's no such thing as an immortal human being. We are all going to die. So it's essentially a delusion to make you feel better about the fact that you have no control, that your life is going to end someday. You don't know how, you don't know when, and that could be very terrifying and crippling for people. So that's the basis, the center of all type of anxiety. It all stems from that basic primal fear. We all want to live forever. We all want to be happy. We don't want to, it can go to a lot of irrational places. Like some people may have a fear of dying painfully. Some people may have a fear of dying in their sleep. So, all fear is not based in type of reality, because you can't, even with as much fear as you can have, like, it is not going to prevent you from dying. So that's the basis of all type of fear. And then our minds create more irrational things, and some fears are more irrational than others. So that's like, I guess if there was a rational fear, it would be the fear of dying, because of the, just because, it's a common type thing. It's a common general. If you ask 2, 3, 4 people, if they were be afraid of dying, it's a safe assumption. Not that it's a total assumption, safe assumption that they would say yes. So, it's a common type thing, but all anxiety stems from that basic fear, and then it goes to whatever happens in your life. Sometimes anxiety comes from financial pressures. You have a bill due, you don't have enough money to pay for it, you're going to have anxiety, because then there's consequences that may impact your life. If you don't have your payment for your mortgage, for your house, your rent, or something like that, generally, and this doesn't apply to everybody, but this is just a generalized statement that could apply to a majority of people. Just want to put that out there. But generally, if you don't have enough money to pay your rent, it's going to cause you anxiety, because it's going to impact your living situation negatively. So, all anxieties, anxiety is kind of like similar to negative thoughts. There's always like a kernel of truth with anxiety or with negative thoughts, but because of the emotional reaction to that thought or stuff like that, it exaggerates it and puts it in a irrational or irrational or exaggerated, and not like, it's so far, there's just like about 1% truth to it, and the 99% is exaggerations or rationalities. So it's important to know about that when you're dealing with anxiety, because a lot of it is layers upon layers upon layers upon layers until you get to the source, which is the thing that is causing the emotional turmoil potentially. So, anxiety is best to be taken care of in a therapeutic setting, with a counselor that you trust. Anxiety can get out of control very quickly. A lot of different factors. It could be potentially exercise and diet. If there's a lack of that, that impacts your the ability of your anxiety to go more out of control. When you exercise and your diet is healthier, on the healthier side, you don't have to have a perfect diet, but exercise and anxiety tires your body out, and it gives it the ability to not be anxious anymore. You're using that nervous energy to improve your body and your ability to handle stress. So exercise is such a important, wonderful tool for any type of mental illness. And I am the worst person. I don't like to preach things unless I practice it. And it's difficult, when you're dealing, when things are out of control, it's very difficult to be committed to it. Exercise, something like X, but it's a thing that will give you it gives you a nice tool in the toolbox to combat the anxiety and take a negative type of situation and turn it into a positive. So it's one tool. The other tools, with your breathing is so important, because anxiety, when you get an anxious thought, it impacts your breathing negatively. It takes over your breathing, and you don't know it. It happens so quick, but it is important to, so, breathing, exercise, working on things in therapy to get to the root of what's causing the most anxiety. It's not something that you're going to be able to potentially take care of unless you're with a professional. A lot of the things, it's layers upon layers. It's kind of like if you have a sliver in your hand and it's really in deep, and no matter how much you use tools, you can't get it out. But if you ignore it and it starts getting infected, and all of a sudden you have this big, your hand is impacted really badly, and you have to go. So it's something where it's essentially, that's kind of the metaphor that with anxiety, it's like a mental sliver that's causing all these turmoils, and you have to really go in a professional setting and work with a professional to search what it is, because it's taking out, quote unquote, the sliver is not easy. It's painful, can be sometimes, because you're dealing with powerful fear, and you need to be in a safe situation to deal with that. Otherwise, if you're dealing in an outside situation, fear is very powerful. It can cause you to crumble very quickly, especially when your mind is out of control with it, and that's the way anxiety is. So, those are things to worry. It's important to know. I just wanted to give like a basic type thing, but it's important to know that to summarize, there is no such thing as a rational fear. The basis of all fear is the fear of death, and no amount of fear is going to cause you to live forever. No amount of fear is going to prevent you from dying. You need to understand that. Once you understand that, which sometimes takes a lot of work, because that's kind of scary, that like some people get very terrified. They're like, I could drop dead at any second. That's a very terrifying type thing, rightfully so. But that's why, being in a professional setting is important. So, and, just based on everything that I talked about, that's essentially the kind of thing. So that's this video for anxiety. I wanted to go into more depth. I hope people were able to understand something and maybe potentially gain from it, but it's important to know those things. Again, these are not things that I'm just, talking out of my rectum. This is through a lot of experience. So, hope it helps, and you have a wonderful day. Bye.